We are certainly aware of the announced sanctions, and instead of taking meaningful action, such as immediately repealing the national security law and stopping the systematic repression of Uyghurs, the Chinese Communist Party opted to respond with this symbolic and ineffectual action. This president has stood strongly against China, and he'll continue to do so.
All right, that was White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany on China's sanctions on 11 lawmakers in response to Washington's sanctions on China for curtailing political freedoms in Hong Kong. Well, now some of those sanctioned lawmakers are speaking out, including our next guest, ranking member of the Congressional Executive Commission on China, New Jersey's Congressman Chris Smith. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Sean, thanks for having me on, and Leslie, great to see you as well.
Congressman Smith, you have been a leader in human rights, and in particular, a leader when it comes to standing up to China. In the time that you have spent, and it's been years, not to date you, you have been fighting this fight probably longer than anybody in Congress on either side of the aisle. Have we made any progress?
We have recently, even though things are getting significantly worse in China, we have had far too many enablers in previous administrations. I mean, Obama, when he met with Hu Jintao, then the president, at a press conference, he defended Hu Jintao and his human rights record. And it was so bad that the Washington Post did a scathing editorial that said Obama defends Hu on rights and said they have a different culture. No, they understand human rights. Tiananmen Square was just one of many indicators how people want human rights and freedom, which is universally recognized and ought to be theirs as well. But time and again, this false narrative that if you trade more, they will somehow matriculate from dictatorship to a democracy. It doesn't work. They get stronger, and their military capabilities exponentially are enhanced.
We talked to Heather Nauer about that yesterday, Congressman, how they're trying to play the long game. China feels like we're meddling in their politics with these sanctions that we put on them for the handling of the Uyghur Muslims. How else can we actually hold them accountable for their handling of these egregious acts against these people?
It's a great question. Sanctions do take time to get their desired effect. Had we waited longer on Iran, for example, I believe we would have had a deal that would have been verifiable with regards to nuclear. But unfortunately, before the sanctions fully took effect, we blinked and they took advantage. It may take some time. We need to get other countries to join us. The COVID-19 debacle ought to underscore that they lie, they deceive, they cheat, as that's their default position. And I'm talking about not the Chinese people, but Hu Jintao before, and all the others, and now Xi Jinping, who, like no one else except Mao Zedong, is a masterful deceit person who has he's brutal. He uses force, he uses torture as a means, and all kinds of other ugly methods, and they're doing it against the Hong Kongers. They've continued to do it against the Muslim Uyghurs. We need to get a greater global coalition working on these issues. So other countries need to join us and stop thinking about the short term. Yeah, we want to trade more. What are they doing with all of that capability that has dual use? They're making their military and their secret police, which is already ubiquitous throughout all of China, even more capable of repression.
Congressman, you've been fighting this fight under several administrations. What would our relationship look like with China under a Biden-Harris administration?
Oh, I think it would be an utter disaster. The reason why I think 11 and before that, others, I was one of the ones sanctioned previously and in previous years. They hit my computers after I had a hearing on Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Cisco for their enabling and their surveillance capabilities. They were providing the secret police. All of a sudden, all of my computers in my office were hacked by the Chinese, and it was the experts told us it came right out of Beijing. That's not the first time now that I'm sanctioned again, along with some other really, really wonderful lawmakers. But I think it would be a disaster under Biden. He is an accommodator. He'll talk tough, maybe privately, but for 8 years, we had a feckless policy of enabling. Human rights was nowhere to be found except in a mention on talking points, but there was no real connection with policy. Remember, it was Bill Clinton who delinked most favored nation status which gives them good trading opportunities for an exporting economy with human rights. And that's after he famously linked it. We all said, way to go, Mr. President. And 1 year later, on a Friday afternoon, after the news cycle was pretty much over, he delinks. And that's when they looked at us and said, the only thing these guys care about in America is money. Now, I believe in capitalism. I believe in profits, but it has to be principled. And when you deal with a company, and they are a company, a government, Communist Party, that is all about all take, no give, no rule of law. Look what they do with privacy rights and copyright infringement, intellectual property rights. At their time and choosing, they will take your copyright, your patent, whatever it might be. They're notoriously for that, known for that. So we really have misread them. And I think the profit motive for some drove them to do it. They all wanted to be well-liked. Well, we have well-liked a dictatorship that is crushing its own people, has been doing. I offered the First Amendment, Lindsay and Sean, back in 1994, to say no money to any organization that supports coercive population control, and it passed. And under Reagan, Bush, and now under Trump, we don't provide money to anybody who's complicit with their forced abortion policy. Under Obama, under Clinton, they provided money to these organizations, which said in big neon lights letters, we don't care what you do to your women through coercive population control or through forced abortion and sterilization. They're using it now against the Uyghurs as a form of genocide to try to get rid of the Muslim Uyghurs in every way they can. That's one of the ways.
Congressman, we're out of time. I want to thank you for your fight. Keep fighting the fight, standing up and speaking out. All you're doing to lead this. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Sean, so much for doing this, too. It's great.
All right.
Thank you, Liz.
You bet. Thank you, Congressman. All right, coming up, Lindsay and I will give you our final thoughts.